Hi, this is Nick Shivers, Chief Opportunity Officer here at WestOne Properties Group and Keller Williams Portland Central, serving Oregon and Washington. Thanks for tuning in to the webinar today. We are going to talk about the 4 key steps of maximizing value in a shifting market. Now, the first thing that we're going to talk about is what is a shifting market? Because a lot of national and local news on the radio, on the TV are talking about that shifting market. So let's talk a little bit about that. So the first thing that we always want to look at is history. So when we had a last shift, which was in 2008, a shift down, we had a crushing blow to the housing market. I'm going to tell you that I think that's a little bit different today. Okay, before we get into the 4 key steps, I really want to analyze and talk a little bit about the shift. So let's look at history. In 2008, we had a crushing blow to the housing market. So let's fast forward. 2012, we started seeing mass appreciation. And so we have seen 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16 growth. Okay? So some of the biggest names in real estate: Gary Keller, shifts coming, shifts coming. Brian Buffini, shifts coming. Remax, shifts coming. A lot of those talks are about the shift is coming. Okay? So in 2008, a lot of my connections around the country are saying it's coming your way. So I'm talking to those people right now, and what are they saying? Number 1, they are seeing more inventory. Number 2, they're seeing higher days on the market. Number 3, they're seeing more price reductions. So in certain areas, we've already seen a shift there. Okay, so let's bring that back to here locally. Locally, yes, we have seen a little bit higher days on market. And remember, this is micro local. Okay, so suburbs are seeing a little bit more than close in, and all the big cities in Oregon and Southwest Washington. What are the things that are different that I see? Number 1, the demand for housing in Portland Metro, Seattle, even in Southwest Washington, Clark County, is totally different than back in 2008. We have been the #1 relocation market in Portland, Southwest Washington for 4 years running. The expected population growth is 650,000 new people coming into the area in the next 20 years. Growth of jobs have doubled compared to the norms around the country. That's number 1. Number 2, interest rates. Interest rates now are still below 4%. Back before the bubble crash, they were almost up to 6%. So affordability is better. Number 3, credit availability. We have a lot tighter rules on credit than we did before. I mean, people that weren't even alive were getting credit to buy houses. So I believe that is going to control the market a little bit. So what does that really mean? A shift, higher days on market, maybe not as much appreciation, which is not a bad thing because you can't get double-digit growth forever. Okay, so let's start going into the 4 keys. Number 1, that's called exposure. The key to getting your home sold for the most amount of money, especially when people from around the country and internationally are wanting to live in the area, is exposure. Okay, both locally. Yes, you need to make sure that you market to the people that live in your area. How do you do that? Facebook. People don't realize how those social sites actually get exposure for your home. So maximum exposure locally, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook. You want to make sure that people know that you're selling your house. If they don't know that you're selling your house, how are you going to get them in? The second thing is regionally. Making sure that if you're in Portland, you want to make sure people in Vancouver are seeing it, or Salem are seeing it, or Beaverton, or Clackamas. So regionally, you want to make sure that those regional people are seeing it. How are you going to do that? Making sure that you're networking with agents in all those areas. Okay? Nationally, right now, because of the growth in those areas, being people from California, Arizona, we want to make sure that we're getting our properties out, and you want to make sure your property is out nationally. And remember this, back in the day, the open house, is how people saw homes. That is not how they see homes traditionally anymore. You want to make sure that your online exposure is maximized through professional photography, making sure that you have drones and video tours and 3D tours of the property. Making sure that you're getting maximum exposure for that online. Because again, if they click on it and you have a crappy photo, they're not going to look anymore and they're moving on to the next. So, maximum exposure. Local, regional, national, and the final point is international. We have sold over 5-6 homes in the last 4 months, over $1 million. And 3 have been from international buyers from China, okay? Because right now, because Seattle's getting a little too expensive, the Bay Area with an average price of $1 million in the Portland metro area being almost 400, that we're still a bargain. So you want to make sure you're getting international exposure. How do you do that? You want to make sure that you're also getting websites that are in the language of that potential international customer. And then the final aspect is making sure that you're marketing to the agents. I know there's about 5 agents here in our market that have those clientele. So we make sure that we market to them all the time. So let's just say you're in another market, you're trying to do a for sale by owner, you better find out who the international buyers are, and you need to figure out what are they looking at. Most of it is in the luxury price point. That's kind of where those international buyers are looking at. So that was step 1, maximum exposure. Step 2 is presentation. You know what? If you go out on a date, you better look your best at the start because it all goes downhill from there. Curb appeal, curb appeal, curb appeal. Not only on your online presentation, but when people drive by. When you are still in a low inventory market, which that is shifting a little bit, but we're still below 2 months or below 3 months in Washington, two months in the Portland metro area, that's still a low inventory. So people are still driving by. So you want to make sure that your yard looks good, your gutters look good, your front door looks good. That first appeal when you're driving by, you're like, wow, that house looks sharp. Secondly, when you get in, especially we're in the fall time, it's a little bit dark, make sure that you have those bright lights, making sure that as much light is coming into the house as possible. So make sure that presentation looks good in anything that you're doing, whether it's online exposure or drive-by, okay? So we've covered maximum exposure, okay? Local, regional, national, and international. Presentation, key. Online and in person. And our third step is pricing. So the key to pricing is this. You want to make sure and you look at what's happened in the past, what's happening now, and what is predicted to happen in the future. Okay? Then you look at those 3 aspects. Then you look at your own situation. When do you need to sell your house? Okay. Third step, pricing. This is key. Okay, so when we want to look at pricing, we want to look at past, okay, what has happened in the last 90 days? What has happened in the last 6 months? Remember, in a shifting market, that could potentially be prices were a little bit higher than they are now. You got to look at the present. What is currently pending? What is currently on the market? And then the last aspect is you got to look at the future. What is predicted to happen? Like I said, everybody's talking about the shift. So you have to really look at that and make sure that when you go to price your property, that you're not helping someone else sell their property. Our system that we use, which is what I'm explaining right now, is proven and it's repeatable to get our clients about 3.7% more than the market average because of the things that we do. So, past, sold, you look at them, because remember, you have to sell a property twice in today's market. You have to sell it to a buyer and you have to sell it to a bank. So what happened recently on your street, in your neighborhood? Time, okay? 2, present. What's pending? and what's currently on the market. Remember, real estate's supply and demand. If you don't have any competitors, then you can push the price up a little bit. But if you have 3 competitors and you're looking at them and you're saying, man, my house is better because I have a gold-plated toilet seat, I'm sorry to tell you, that doesn't matter. That is an amenity that will make you that is an amenity that might give you an advantage, but if you're $10,000 overpriced, I guarantee you, you're going to help somebody else sell their property. And again, the future aspect. How many properties are supposed to hit the market in the last 90 days? That will give you an idea. Okay, if I have to sell my house in the next 60 days, I have 3 properties are on the market and they're all listed at $500,000, but I want my house to sell at $525,000. I'm sorry to tell you, that's not going to happen, even though Zillow might tell you that. You got to look at your competitors. Okay, because the worst thing you can do is put your house on the market and sell somebody else's, because that's not what you want. And then the final aspect is negotiations. Whether it is yourself or your agent, you better know that that person or yourself knows how to handle all the intricacies, all the ins and outs of this, because number one, majority of the time, homes are one of the biggest values people have for their retirement. So you want to make sure that that person is skilled, both how many transactions that they've closed, how many negotiations have you handled? Because it's not just sign here and sign there, because that could leave thousands of dollars on the table. Thanks for tuning into the webinar today. I hope some of these little ideas gave you a really good insight to what you need to do to get maximum value for your home. If you want to click the link below for a free, no obligation assessment of your own house, please don't hesitate to click that and someone will reach out to you momentarily. Thanks a lot and have a wonderful day.